Why now and why you?
I was asked to speak at the conference, actually, to give more of a royalist perspective, given that the other speaker of my session is definitely on the Republican side. I actually start off by saying, well, I think I'm here on false pretences because I'm not a sort of deeply committed royalist any longer, but I'm not actually, despite the Herald's rather strange misreading of my speech, a deeply committed Republican either. I think there's a whole sort of nuanced approach which is required on this. But I think there is a debate to be had here. And I think there are some changes that occurred irrespective of whether the monarchy is abolished.
It's interesting that you refer to the Herald article about this, because reading that article you would think that you'd become a rampant Republican. I've read the contents of your speech, and what seems to come out of this to me is your feeling of inevitability about republicanism in New Zealand.
I think that's right. I think there are a number of things that lead in that direction. At the moment, it seems to me that a lot of the support for the monarchy, still a majority of New Zealanders clearly support remaining a monarchy, is actually support for the current Queen, given her long reign, given that extraordinary sense of duty, given the affection that people have for her. Not clear that will be transferred to her successor, for example. Our population, with growing migration from countries such as China and India, has no natural affinity to some kind of loyalty to a monarch residing in London. And then there are sort of certain specific things. I think it's very strange, for example, we have rules still following the British that you can't be a Roman Catholic and the monarch. Girl children still aren't treated equally with boy children in terms of rights of succession. And this automatic hereditary thing that it just passes down from one to the other without us having a say at the intermediate stage saying, is that really the person we want to be our formal head of state? And I say formal because in practice our real head of state is the Governor-General appointed by the New Zealand government. The Queen barely comes to New Zealand these days.
So you do ask a lot of questions. One of the things... in terms of cost, because it's quite interesting in your speech, you address the fact that we are in the very fortunate position of having a head of state who costs us very little indeed, and whose credit cards we therefore don't need to examine.
Yes, that sort of one-liner. I can never avoid doing one-liners, I'm afraid.